Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Community Board 10 of Brooklyn Traffic and Transportation Committee. My name is Anthony Marino, Chair. Today is Thursday, April 20th. I welcome everybody to the meeting. Tonight, we have representatives from the New York State DOT to present a plan for the upcoming refurbishment of the I-278 Fort Hamilton Parkway overpass in the area of 82nd to 81st Street. Without any further interruption or anything else, I introduce Delia to introduce your team and to give that presentation. Welcome to the meeting, Delia.
Thank you very much, Anthony. So for all of you that have not met me either via email or now virtual, I am Delia Garcia and I am the assistant to the regional director, Craig Rule from Region 11, State Department of Transportation. And I would like to have Pkwy Chokalov to introduce himself because he's part of the regional structures project team. Pkwy, I see your name there. Okay, maybe he's having.
He just unmuted himself.
Yes, he's there.
Good evening, everyone.
Okay. So Pkwy is the project manager for this Fort Hamilton Parkway Bridge rehab. We have also the design consultant on board, and after I give you a brief project overview, they will take over the presentation. I want to give you also a brief overview of the project, which is the rehabilitation of the Fort Hamilton Parkway bridge. And this bridge was originally constructed in the 1960s, so it's approximately 60 years old. The bridge is deteriorated and is not up to current design standards or safety standards. And so this project will rehab the bridge and provide not only safety improvements, but also operational improvements for the community and the traveling public. Stantec is the prime consultant for this project design portion of the project. And I would like to turn things over to Mr. Rifat Habashi from Stantec, who is the project manager.
Thank you, Delia.
You're
Good
welcome.
evening, everybody. Good evening. My name is Rifat Habashi. I'm the project manager from Stantec Consultant. Also from Stantec, we have Parkso. Park is the structural lead for the project, and also Chris Coogan. Chris is the civil lead for the project. Once again, thank you for scheduling this meeting, and thank you for taking the time to attend the project presentation. Please excuse my husky voice. I'm suffering from a bad cold. I'm trying to shake it off, but it's no success so far.
Rifat, do you have a PowerPoint or a visual presentation?
It's coming.
It's coming. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Just let me know once you're able to see it. Okay, it didn't pop up. I'm going to try again. Share screen. Gotta love technical difficulties, right?
Chris, would you like me? Oh, I see it.
There it is.
Great.
All right, there's
Very
the charm.
We're good. I would like to give a quick summary of the project, and then we go into the details as we go through the PowerPoint presentation. As Delia mentioned, the Fort Hamilton Bridge was constructed back in the 60s. It was constructed with the construction of the Lower Gowanus Expressway. This bridge been in service for over 60 years. This bridge is a multi-span bridge, simply supported with many joints. These joints been leaking for many years, causing major damage to the superstructure and the substructure. In the next few slides, Park, who is the structural engineer for the project, will go over the bridge condition and highlighted the deteriorated elements of the bridge. Over the years, this bridge received multiple repairs, many localized repairs as well. It was rehabbed back in the 90s with a complete rehabilitation. Providing the age of the bridge is over 60 years old, the condition of the bridge, the extent of the deterioration, it is not cost effective to continue repairing the bridge. It's not efficient to continue doing localized repairs to the bridge. Therefore, New York State DOT scheduled the bridge for a replacement. The new bridge will have fewer joints. The new bridge also will eliminate substandard elements that exist in the old bridge. The new bridge will be on the same footprint as the old bridge, will have the same width. It will have 2 travel lanes, similar to the old bridge, 1 parking lane, similar to the old bridge, a wide sidewalk, similar to the existing sidewalk. And the new addition to the bridge will be a brand new bike lane that will connect the existing bike lane east and west of the bridge, connecting the bike lane between 7th Avenue and 4th Hamilton. Next slide, please. This slide shows the project limits. The project limits extended to the east and the west to include improvement to Pkwy Square and Tom McDonald Triangle. Pkwy Square and Tom McDonald Triangle are under New York City Parks jurisdiction. Currently, we are coordinating with New York City Parks on the improvement to these 2 locations. Next slide, please. Now, Parkso will go over the project needs and highlight the deteriorated elements of the bridge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rafat. Good evening, everyone. Once again, I'm Pakso with Stantec, and on this project, I'm the structural engineer. Let me first get into the project needs. As Rafat and Delia mentioned before, this bridge was built in 1964. It's a steel bridge with a concrete deck. Let me first get into that deck. It's a structurally deficient concrete deck, which really has exceeded its useful life. As you can see from photo 1, this is a pretty typical photo of the underside of the deck. It exhibits many areas with scaling, large spalls, where you can see the exposed rusted rebar. As you keep working down now, below the deck is the steel beams. The steel girder ends, many of them are heavily deteriorated, along with their bearing stiffeners and bridge diaphragms. You can see in photo 2 there that many of those girder ends are really heavily rusted to the point where the steel has disintegrated into these large holes. Also, one of the spans, the bridge member has taken some impact damage. Okay, next slide, please. So as you keep working down below the beams, you have the bridge bearings. You see there in photo 3, all the bridge bearings are really heavily rusted and there's surface corrosion throughout. I'm sorry, that was photo 4. And on the bottom 2 photos, you see if you keep going down below the bearings now, you're at the pier substructure. There's columns that have heavy section loss where you see the rebar. Photo 6 there is that cap beam and the pedestals, a lot of corrosion. So that's the project needs for this bridge. Next slide, please. Now I'll talk about the project objectives. First, we want to rehabilitate the structurally deficient elements that you saw in the photos before, including the bridge deck, the substructure piers and abutments, as well as the bridge steel. We want to upgrade the substandard bridge railing to meet all modern-day New York State DOT bridge standards. And thirdly, we want to accommodate bicycle and pedestrian access to meet ADA compliance. Next slide, please. Now let me talk about the proposed improvements. The bridge deck and approach slabs are going to be removed and replaced under this project. The superstructure steel beams, we propose to replace them with brand new metallized steel. All the piers will be replaced with brand new piers that have wider pier caps, full height pier walls, new concrete pedestals and footings. We propose to repair the existing abutments, including pedestals, bridge seats, and back walls. All those rusted bearings, they're all going to be replaced with brand new modern elastomeric bearings. And we're going to eliminate as many joints as we can with the use of link slabs or using continuous spans. We're going to replace the existing bridge railing with new upgraded concrete parapets that satisfy the latest New York State DOT standards. We're also going to provide for operational and safety improvements. We're going to do so by reconfiguring the travel lanes to add a protected bicycle lane while maintaining the existing parking lane. And finally, we're going to upgrade the street and underdeck lighting. So with that, I'm going to pass the presentation over to my colleague, Chris Coogan. Chris?
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Rafat. Thanks, Delia. My name's Chris Coogan, and I'm the lead civil engineer for the project. So here on this slide, we have the proposed plan view of the Fort Hamilton Parkway Bridge, along with the approaches on the east and the west side of the bridge. On the approaches on the west and the east side, we'll be doing some mill and overlay, resurfacing, and also some restriping of the existing roadway. We'll also be, as Rafat touched on earlier, doing some landscaping improvements to Tom McDonald Triangle on the west side of the bridge and Coffee Square on the east side of the bridge. As far as the bridge itself goes, the new bridge will have 2 travel lanes, along with the parking/right turn lane, the right turn lane on the east side of the bridge approaching 81st Street and 7th Avenue. And we'll also have a new protected bicycle lane with a buffer between the bicycle lane and the parking lane on the southern side of the bridge, along with the pedestrian sidewalk that will be rebuilt as part of this project. So this is a photo I took on the bridge a few weeks ago, back before spring has sprung. And this is a pretty typical view of the bridge itself. You can see here on the left side, again, the outdated bridge railing that's not up to today's standards. The asphalt overlay in the middle of the bridge is over that deteriorated concrete deck that Pop touched on earlier. And then also on the right side, we've got the existing parking lane and the sidewalk. So this slide here represents a cross-section view, very similar to the previous slide. The top one being the existing cross-section, which I just talked about earlier. And the bottom cross-section will represent the new bridge. It's very similar to the existing bridge, but a little bit different. Again, we have 2 travel lanes. We'll have that parking/right turn lane. And then we have our buffer and protected bicycle lane toward the south side of the bridge, along with the pedestrian sidewalk. So here we have a proposed rendering view based off of that photograph that I showed off earlier, showing what the bridge will look like in its final configuration once this project is complete. And this can help visualize, I think, the parapets, the new bridge railing on the north and southern fascias, updated to today's standards, along with the fencing on top of it. We have, of course, the travel lanes, the parking lane, the new bicycle lane, and the pedestrian sidewalk as well. So during the course of this project, we'll be coordinating with various agencies, including utility companies such as National Grid, Con Edison, the New York City Fire Department, and New York City Street Lighting. As previously mentioned, we'll be upgrading the existing street lighting on the bridge itself. Other agencies we'll be coordinating with are, of course, New York City Parks for Coffee Square and Tom McDonald Triangle on each side of the bridge. We'll also be coordinating with MTA buses, which I'll discuss on a slide coming up very soon. we'll be coordinating with New York City DOT and OCMC for the work zone traffic control for this project. And also New York State DOT and MTA ITS. There's existing ITS on the Gowanus Expressway that will be maintained and protected during construction. So this slide here is showing basically how we're going to be constructing the bridge. We're going to be utilizing staged construction, essentially doing the bridge half at a time. So on the top, again, this is a cross-section view, very similar to the picture that I took and showed earlier, looking east on the bridge. So essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a work zone on the northern side of the bridge and maintaining one travel lane and the pedestrian sidewalk during stage 1. The travel lane and the pedestrian sidewalk are going to be maintained during the course of construction. During stage 2, the northern side of the bridge is going to be completed, and we're going to shift traffic and the sidewalk over to that completed section, which will open up the work zone on the southern side of the bridge. The parking lane will be restored once construction is complete. Okay, so previously I mentioned MTA buses. There is an existing B16, B70 bus stop located on the eastern side of the bridge. It's actually on the bridge itself. And this bus stop is going to be temporarily closed during construction. There are 2 nearby bus stops, one at 83rd Street on the west side and one at 79th Street on the east side. These will both remain open during construction for customers to utilize. So here we have the preliminary project schedule for this project. The 90% plans is the first major submission that will be taking place this fall. The 100% plans, or PS&E, will occur in the spring of next year, approximately a year from now. We'll have the letting for construction in the summer of 2024, with the actual construction start date taking place that fall. And we anticipate a construction duration of approximately 2 years. So this slide here is kind of a summary of the highlights of the project. So temporary or during construction, again, the pedestrian sidewalk and one travel lane will remain open during construction at all times. There will not be a full detour required as part of this project. We'll also be utilizing noise mitigation measures, which will reduce the overall impact on construction noise on the adjacent neighborhood. As far as the permanent condition goes, the proposed bridge width will be identical to existing. There won't be any bridge widening as part of this project. We'll be restoring the parking lane upon completion of construction. Of course, there'll be a new proposed bicycle lane that will actually connect to the 2 adjacent bicycle lanes that exist today on Fort Hamilton Parkway and 7th Avenue. The final sidewalk width will be slightly reduced by 1 foot to accommodate this bicycle lane. The vehicular traffic capacity will match existing 2 lanes of traffic in the east direction. There will be no loss in vehicular traffic capacity while we add the bicycle lane to the bridge. And last but not least, we'll be coordinating with New York City Parks to incorporate some improvements to the Tom McDonald Triangle and Coffee Square. And on that, I'll turn it back to Rafat for any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much to everyone from the DOT for a very thorough presentation. I know that overpass well. It's a main artery from Bay Ridge into Dyker Heights, so definitely in need of upgrades. Do we have any questions from the committee? We do. Steve, yes, go for it.
You got me?
Yep.
Okay. First of all, I want to just tell everybody that I was actually there when they opened the existing bridge. And I'll tell you, I hope my girders are holding up better than this one. So I have a few questions. It's the same width, this whole bridge wide is going to be the same width as the current one?
Yes, will be the same exact width, yes. And we'll have 2 travel lanes, 1 parking lane, and a sidewalk. And then the new addition will be the bike lane that connect to the existing bike lane east and west of the bridge.
Yeah. And in the picture, there seems to be between, I think, the bike lane and the sidewalk, it seems to me that there's an empty space there. Am I wrong? Could you put the picture back up for 1 second?
I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
stopped the share so we could see you. If you could put that back up.
Yeah.
I think
Certainly. Give me 1 second. I'll get it right back up there.
Sorry.
No, it's totally fine. Of course.
Okay, what I see, if I can, I see the 2 travel lanes, okay, and then there's a white line, okay, which makes sense. I see a person like kind of standing there in what is that between the 2 travel lanes? I just want to make sure I understand it. Where that's the parking lane. Now, between the parking lane and the bike lane, there's an open that space there. What is that? Just a safety space, or?
That's correct. It's a buffer between the bicycle lane and the parking lane.
Okay, I'm just
Yes.
trying to understand what I'm looking at. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the
course.
sidewalk itself is going to be 1 foot narrower,
That's correct.
Yes. Correct.
and that's still considered to be safe. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And there's let's see. All right. I got that one there. And,
Are the other lanes narrower as well, or is it only the sidewalk that's narrower? What's narrowing other than that?
Yes, the lanes are actually going to be a little bit narrower as well. The bridge was actually originally striped for 3 through lanes, and I think there was a restriping that was done a few years back.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Which made it 2 lanes, and the lanes are a lot wider than a typical lane. So we'll be reducing the lane width to 11 feet wide, which is a more standard and typical lane width.
Very good. And so it's also in one direction too, right?
That's
Yeah.
correct. It's one direction.
Right. Okay. But this question is it's kind of a nitty one for me because of what has happened in the parking lot yesterday and that collapse. Why, if this bridge, I mean, you've shown us something there that I'm almost afraid to walk on it now. So my question for you is, why are you still running cars on it if it's that terrible?
It's not terrible to the point that it has to be closed.
Who makes that determination and how?
Rafat, I can answer that question.
Oh, you want to go ahead, Park? Yeah.
Sure. I'm also a load rating engineer for New York State DOT. So calculations are always run on these bridges to make sure that they can carry the design load. So even though this bridge has deterioration, it's still able to support the load, and that's all done with calculations.
How long do you estimate that? I'm sure you've done that, but how long do you estimate that it will continue to be serviceable? Are we talking 10 years, or are we talking about 6 months?
No. It's so the way it works is the calculations run by the load raters are done hand in hand with the bridge inspection. So as you know, every time the bridge gets inspected, you verify if there's section loss in the members and what that does to the carrying capacity.
Yeah, but I'm trying to understand. Like, if you go under there and there's a rust, I'll just say rust. How do you know? How do you know how much? And this is a matter of curiosity. How do you know how much deterioration there is? Say, I've opened cans that I thought were perfectly fine, and then they just collapsed in my hand. How do you know that?
So what the inspectors do, they have an instrument called a D-meter that you can actually stick on the piece of metal, and you can record the thickness of it, and you can compare it to the as-built condition. So let's say the original drawings called out 1/2 inch thick for the steel, and you're measuring like 0.4 inches. So now it's lost some section, and then based on that, you can do calculations to see what it can carry.
Okay. This is all well accepted stuff, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I trust you.
I would like to add that every bridge get inspected at least once every 2 years. That's a federal mandate. And when they do the inspection, they run the load rating to make sure the bridge is safe for the traveling public. So every 2 years, that it at minimum every 2 years.
Okay, I got it. I want to thank you, and I just wish they had some kind of an instrument like that for my bones. So, thank you.
Dean.
Yeah, well, one of my questions was answered. I was wondering where you got the additional space for the bike lane, but you answered that. The other question is, what is metallized steel?
Park, you want to take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's very good that you saw that. Many bridges are painted, like the steel is painted. What New York State DOT is now doing on many of their bridges is using a process called metallizing. So instead of using bridge paint, they actually spray like a zinc chloride coating on the steel. It lasts a lot longer and it's much better than painting. It does cost more than paint, but you get a better quality product.
I've actually seen that and didn't know what it was. Now I know what it is. Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
Thank you. Jack. Is that?
Do you know if the deterioration is localized to the north or south side? Which side is worse? So that's question one. And I'm trying to think about whether the parking lane on the south side could have attributed more deterioration on the south side. And the second question I wanted to ask about the railing and why it's not up to code and what being up to code means for the railing.
I can answer the part about the deterioration. It's not really related to the parking lane. It's kind of throughout, and it's more because of water getting down from the top through onto the steel below. Chris, do you want to take the other part of that question?
Sure. So the original bridge railing, it's outdated. It just doesn't meet today's crash criteria if a vehicle was to hit it. And the new bridge parapet, it's a lot sturdier. It's full concrete. It's what we use on bridges. You'll notice that if you drive over a new bridge, you'll typically see this exact bridge railing. It's much sturdier than the existing bridge railing, and it's up to today's crash criteria.
Chris, I think this is on the next bridge too, right?
That's correct, yes.
Yep.
The 79th Street Bridge.
Yeah, and this is pretty typical. This is the New York State DOT standard now, that either the single slope when it's next to traffic, or the vertical face, which you'll see on the right side, which is adjacent to the pedestrian sidewalk.
Got it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Stephanie?
Oh, sorry.
Yes. I was curious if you could remind me, where does that bike lane empty out to? Which way will the bikers turn? Will they go left? Will they go right?
I'm going to go back to the plan view here. So the bike lane is going to connect to the existing bike lane over here on 7th Avenue. It kind of comes to an abrupt halt over here. It does continue, I think, onto 6th Avenue, but it does not continue further north onto the bridge itself. And there's also an existing bicycle lane on 7th Avenue. So bikers will be able to either turn to the right, they'll be able to turn to the left, continue to the north or to the south.
Okay, and then the cars will be moving. I'm just trying to get the direction of the cars. One of the things I've noticed in areas where there's a protected bike lane, the cars actually obstruct the view, the parked cars obstruct the view of the cyclists if you're trying to make a turn. I don't know how that can be addressed or if that will also be a problem here, but it's a dangerous thing. I've had that problem when I've been making turns and I have to stop and look behind me several times to make sure a cyclist doesn't come flying through the bike lane because either trucks are parked there or very tall cars. Is that a consideration here?
That's actually a great question, Stephanie, and this is something that we're trying to incorporate more on our projects. So what we typically try to do is incorporate some daylighting where you have those turns, those blind turns that you talk about, where a car is blocking your view, either whether you're the cyclist or whether you're a car at these intersections. So what we've done here, and we're not completely fully through design yet, but we've incorporated a buffer area here in order to prevent cars from being parked in that location.
Okay, and is this tested? Do you go out on the site and see how it works with cars, with a parked car and a cyclist?
Yeah, there's actually lots of examples of daylighting. Actually, in Hoboken, New Jersey, they've incorporated daylighting on a lot of the intersections where they do either bulb outs. Oops, sorry about that. Either bulb outs or that they do striped out areas. And it makes a big difference in terms of visibility and sight distance for both cars, pedestrians, and bicyclists in order to make safe turns.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Great question.
Thank you. Steve, is your hand up from before, or is that a new? You're muted.
No, I'm just old, that's all.
Oh, okay. Josephine, your hand is up. I don't know if you have a.
Yes, my I do have a couple of questions. My first question is, and really my questions deal with the construction, and because I can envision the impact. This is a heavily used overpass, as all of our overpasses are, because they connect both Bay Ridge to Dyker Heights, the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, traffic, people bypass during heavy periods. They utilize all of our overpasses. So will traffic agents be part, or is it part of this contract? Especially during construction, during all of the construction phases, some of the construction phases. That's my first question.
Rafa, you want me to take this one?
Yeah, you can take this one, Chris, or I can take it. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Go
we
ahead.
haven't specifically gotten into traffic agents in particular. What I can say is we have done some traffic analysis to the bridge itself and looked at the traffic volumes of the bridge. So you'll notice that the bridge approach is actually a 1 lane, and once you get onto 7th Avenue, it's also 1 lane. So the bridge itself going down to 1 lane during construction shouldn't be too big of an impact. As far as the Gowanus Expressway goes, we understand very much how heavily trafficked the expressway is, along with the importance of that HOV lane. So right now we have the HOV lane will remain open, it will not be impacted, and we are not implementing any long-term single lane closures on the Gowanus Expressway itself.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, during times when there is an accident or an issue, we are gridlocked, and that one becomes a choke point often as a way to scurry around town by those who are familiar with the area. My second question has to do with a very big time of year here in Community District 10 during the month of December, and that's Dyker Lights.
Yes, that was going to be my question.
This particular overpass is very, very heavily utilized, and so is the general area. My question is there a holiday embargo typically used by New York State DOT during construction? And if not, could one be considered here?
I can take this one. The holiday embargo that comes from New York City, OCMC, it will apply to this project, and it applies to all the state projects. And usually it starts after Thanksgiving all the way to the New Year.
Okay.
Although New York State is the owner of the Gowanus and the owner of the bridge, but you have to get a permit from New York City OCMC. And the OCMC permit will have a stipulation for the holiday embargo.
Okay, and then I just want to share with the DOT team that the district office, quite often does reach out to New York State DOT, has for this overpass as well as Ovington Avenue and 92nd Street. All of our overpasses are aging and old, and oftentimes requires a fix. And I know that there's been interim repairs here that have kind of stopgap some of the big potholes that have opened up a long time. And I just want to extend my appreciation, on behalf of the board for your team's responsiveness to when we reach out for help. Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to hear some kind words and appreciative words after we're try to address, the community board's concerns or issues that they may bring up to our office. Thank you.
Jack, you had your hand up again?
Yeah, so the bus stop that is not going to be in commission for 2 years, has there been talk about where that bus stop will be placed, and where does it fall within your map? Because the bus stop obviously right now is on the travel lane, but now there's going to be the bike lane in between.
So
Chris,
Rafa,
you
you
want
want
to
me-
take that one?
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, so Jack, I think the question was as far as the permanent condition goes once construction's complete.
Yes.
Okay, so we're still coordinating with the MTA. They are working on a rerouting project or a reconfiguration project, I'll say, for their Brooklyn networks for the buses. And this bus stop in particular is one that potentially might get eliminated in the future. They're looking at ideas to kind of cut down certain bus stops where there's a lot of bus stops close together that would improve travel times for some of these routes. So we're going to coordinate with MTA as the project goes along to see if that is going to continue to be a thing. If not, and the bus stop will be restored, needs to be restored at the end of construction, that's something that we can incorporate as part of this plan. So it'll come a little bit later in design.
Thank you. Dean?
Yeah, when Josephine was saying aging and old and requiring a fix, I slipped off mentally from the meeting. Thought she was talking about me for a second. Scared me, Joe. Regarding the daylighting area, and I heard you say the ground will be striped. Could consideration be given to putting a concrete barrier there? Because throughout Bay Ridge, people park on hydrants in those standing areas, in striped areas. And I'm just concerned that that may carry over to that area also. And definitely with a concrete barrier will happen. So I'm just wondering if that's something you consider doing.
Yeah, whether it's a concrete barrier or other methods to improve the daylighting in that area, that's something that we'll definitely be looking into as design progresses. And that's a great comment too, because you're right, people will just ignore striping sometimes. Sometimes striping is just not sufficient. So that's a great question and a great comment.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dean. Anyone else have questions? Josephine, see anybody having any other questions?
No.
All right. In that case, that's the only thing on the agenda for tonight. So with that, I thank the DOT.
No.
Do we defer to, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Do we defer to a conversation amongst ourselves? And now or just that's it?
Yeah, I mean, we could absolutely could if we want to provide comments. The state DOT require anything from the board in terms of feedback or comments about the proposed plan for the refurbishment. I mean, I just want to know if there's anything required, and certainly we can always discuss as a committee if we want to provide some feedback and comments in a formal way.
Okay.
Great presentation.
Very good. Thank you, guys.
So Josephine, you have my email and also the structures project manager Petco. So any other questions that may come after you have your internal discussion, you can always reach out to us and we'll assist you. Okay.
Can you also, Delia, share the PowerPoint that was presented today?
Yes, we
Okay.
could do that.
Okay, great. In case other board members have questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you and good night, everybody.
Good
All right.
night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Delia.
Delia.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Rifat.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
We back?
Yep, we're back.
Is that us?
Just us Mises.
Yeah, and then we still have some attendees on, and that's fine.
Mhm.
We're still an open meeting.
I would say my only note is that bus stop is probably never coming back.
Yeah, that was on the bus network redesign as an elimination. I just looked.
Yeah.
That's
So-
fair. I was just wondering whether they had thought about it or like communicated with MTA at all about that, because if they already did that.
Yeah,
It's
so that was definitely on the plan. I just took a quick look. That was on the proposal that was sent to us.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it all looks pretty good though.
Did they say, I didn't notice it. Did they say when they were going to start?
Fall,
Well,
Fall, okay, fall. I didn't see that. Okay, and for 2 years. Okay.
Fall of 2024,
23,
No, 24.
24?
24.
24, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
next year. Oh, I would have thought they would mean,
Mm,
Next, a year and a half from now, and then it will end fall 26. Because the design will complete next year, like a year from now.
Right.
Just one question. Didn't we have a discussion at one point that on that bridge, we were looking for a counterflow bike lane?
I'm
I
not sure.
don't remember that.
No, I distinctly remember talking about it. I'm not saying that, we were asking them to put a counterflow bike lane there. I don't know how it would work out or anything of that nature. I just wanted to mention it. That rather, because, I mean, we have it going in one direction, but there's no, I can't think of any bike lanes that go in the opposite direction.
Ovington Avenue. is
That's a
the-
long way. That's a long way.
Yeah, Bay Ridge Parkway.
Bay Ridge Parkway goes both has 2 bike lanes there.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, just thinking. That's all.
Anything else? So they don't necessarily need our recommendations or comments like normal, like it's
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
No.
we may want to bring up in a formal way to submit comments that would include the daylighting suggestion that was made. To keep us, informed as far as the construction schedule, notification in advance so we can alert neighbors, getting back to us on questions regarding traffic control.
Did they mention the last time the bridge was tested, by the way? I know they said every 2 years, but I don't remember them saying the last time they tested that bridge. Because that damage did look a little scary. I'm with you, Steve. That was a little.
So I can tell you that I would say within the last year, they've done some more than normal patch up work.
Okay.
They've done extensive work. Currently, right now, the Ovington Avenue overpass is undergoing, if you've gone by there, they've put up a new weight limit for the Ovington Avenue overpass.
Right.
And they've done significant patchwork on that.
Right, yeah, that one was,
92nd Street also. So I don't know. I could find out, but I know they've done that work in the very recent year.
Okay, that's a.
Okay.
It's almost strange though, when you really think about it. If you think about 75th Street, you think about 92nd Street. And this is the one that seems to have, or the one that was on 79th, 80th, right there. The other one, it just seems like this one would have had the least use, yet it's still the one we're going forward with as far as, basically refurbishment.
I go over this overpass every day. So
Yeah, I know you do.
yeah.
But the thing is, if you compare it, to some like 92nd Street.
Right. No, it's true. Yeah.
Right.
It's just strange,
Yeah.
that it would have that kind of wear on it.
I think it makes sense a little bit. I'm not an engineer, but he did say there are multiple joints. It's a larger span.
That's true. It is.
I
Right.
think a lot more water has gotten in there from, what it looks like. I do notice the joints. There's a lot more joints on this bridge than on
There are.
2nd Street or Ovington.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
I
it-
think this is just part of the DOT project of rehabbing the bridges, because they did the 5 bridges over the Belt Parkway, which they started, 5 or 6 years ago, and now they're getting to these 3 bridges.
Yeah. Is Anthony going to give an informational at the next meeting? An
Yes.
informational report?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unless we want to motion to submit some comments, that's up to us, I guess.
I don't think it would hurt to send them some comments, that were made.
Oh, I'm sorry, my laptop died. Do we have a motion on the floor to submit comments? Is that what I just heard?
No, I'm just wondering if it
Oh.
would be something where we should give an informational report, or Anthony should for the next meeting.
I mean, yeah,
I don't have a particular feeling one way or the other. I think it'd probably be a good idea.
just
I
to put
think
something
so.
sort of official.
Yeah, just to,
Yeah.
send their comments to,
Okay.
thank them for their presentation and to provide, some of the items that came up,
Yeah, keep us
to-
in the loop, things like that.
Yep,
Yeah, well, I'm saying that like at the next meeting, general board meeting.
right.
Okay, we want to give a report and tell them that, and tell the board members about it, because there may be somebody there that has something that we want to bring up, and then maybe send a letter saying thank you for the report to the people who just gave it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay,
So you want a motion now to send provide comments to New York State DOT, reflecting the questions that were raised tonight, including the daylighting concerns, the timing of the project, to keep the board updated on construction schedule, any changes, modifications,
yes,
advanced notification of staging. I think
yeah,
that,
but, and then we're asking for the entire board to vote to send that?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. All
So
right, so that's,
if Steve made a motion, I'll second it.
okay.
There you go.
Then all in favor? Any discussion?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye,
Aye, right?
All right, I see
Against it,
everybody.
abstentions, denials, everything else? All right, no, that's good. I think that's a good idea. So we'll have that, and then we'll have, at the meeting, we'll talk about it as well.
All right, great.
Great.
All right, that's all on the agenda this evening.
thank you,
All right.
everyone.